Hey, Josh.
What's up?
How's it going today?
Good. Oh, how's it going? Yeah, great, fantastic. What's up?
You know, I'm looking at that backdrop there.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing it's a little different. What's the deal?
Oh, I got my own place. That's cool, right?
I mean, it's definitely cool, but tell me more. Keep that story rolling, buddy.
Okay. Are we on the podcast right now? It sounds like we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tricked you into a cold open.
Yeah. So I'm in a fifth wheel trailer, which is kind of weird because who knew I would be in that? I usually be in like a apartment or something like that. But honestly, the square footage and the way this is laid out is very similar to a studio apartment. So in my head, it basically feels like a studio apartment, and it's one I can alter and do whatever I want to. So I built an entertainment center for my TV, just like into the wall because I own it, so why not? And been kind of slowly moving in and getting everything prepped, and I got my computer here, and we're podcasting. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, you've got a cozy looking space going on there, and like it just looks like you're sitting in a regular room. I feel like you've done a good job of making it your own. What's left to do? What are the big projects still in your head?
Mostly, one of the biggest project is the carpet here is kind of stained. I tried to clean it, and I was like, nope. I'm just gonna rip the carpet out and put tile in or linoleum, one of the two, whichever I decide to buy from Home Depot this weekend. Gonna start doing that probably this weekend or next weekend. And then besides that, it's just decorating, and that's about it. I got everything else down. I got a new bed, got my games up behind me, which you can see, and then my games, whole entire setup's ready to go, and my computer's ready to go. So besides that, it's just kind of like more of the aesthetics of the place, like I said, like the carpet and stuff. So besides that, it's I'm good. I'm chill. I'm moved in, and everything's good.
Heck yeah. I mean, are you worried that when you swap out that flooring that it's gonna mess up these incredible acoustics that you seem to be gifted with? I mean, I'm hearing you, buddy. You're buttery smooth. It's almost too good.
I know. I was like, I just set everything up exactly the same way. I didn't change anything. And I'm sitting here listening to it. I turned off my AC, so there's no background noise at all in here. So maybe that helps a little bit. But really, I feel like this is the best I've ever sounded. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty confident in this podcast. It's going to be good, I think. Hopefully people like it. I can get into your ears like really close like this. Some ASMR action, you know?
Well, you know what? I think they are going to like this podcast. What podcast are they going to like? They're going to like Indiequest. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Indiequest, a celebration of the indie and obscure. It's your indie video game podcast with me, your host, Steve, and my co-host, Josh, who you just learned is doing phenomenally well. It's freaking New Year, New Josh. I'm loving to see it.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually got to meet up in person. That was pretty fun. I had a good time with that. I'm extremely awkward. I'm already awkward online, but especially in person, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah. But I had a lot of fun. It was a good time.
He says that, but the only thing that's awkward about him is that he calls himself awkward. Otherwise, he's just a regular guy. You'd never know. But it's true. It's true. I was in Seattle, which is not anywhere near where you live, but I mean, it's closer to where you live than Minnesota, where I normally am.
For sure.
So
yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be in Seattle. I'm like, I looked it up. I was like, it's a little over 2-hour drive. I can do it. I'll do it. Why not? Make a day of it. So that's what I did. And you're like, wait, you drove how far? And I'm like, yeah. Well, it was worth it because, I don't know, anything is worth it for Hot Pot. Like, tell you what. Oh my God.
So we were looking for restaurants. And maybe I'm just showing that I'm not very cultured. But we found a restaurant that looked pretty good. And it was a hot pot restaurant. And I'd never had hot pot before. I don't know anything about hot pot. I just knew it looked like, delicious, maybe like Japanese cuisine or something like that, at least based on the menu I was looking at. And actually, I think I looked at the wrong menu because what we got was nothing what I remember looking up. But anyways,
yeah,
we get to this place. And again, I'm explaining to people that probably already know, but turns out hot pot is just you get a big boiling pot of broth in front of you, and you just get to like scoop up and dump a bunch of delicious food, tons of different food, basically buffet style into this broth. And it's just like the never ending delicious soup. I don't know. It was so good.
It was amazing. And then the waiter's like, yeah, you want meat refills? And we're both just looking at each other like, wait, meat refills? Okay. And then like they had like crab you could put in there, like those amazing little wontons that were like little frozen wontons that you throw in there and then they like defrost and cook.
Oh.
And they were like so delicious. And then they had like quail eggs, which I was kind of obsessed with those. I don't know why. They were just so tasty, like little pocket sized, like little tiny, not pocket sized, like marble sized eggs, like that you pop in your mouth and it's just like this creamy, delightful egg taste. And like, yeah. Everything about it was just fantastic. So, and then I had good company too, so that adds to it.
Yeah, no kidding. It was delicious, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Plus, we got to do a little game hunting. We got to play some mini golf. All in all, I'd say a pretty dang successful day for the first official Indiequest convention, I guess is what we'll call it. We had low attendance, only 3 people, but we did have a traveling convention all the same.
It's a convention before we eventually have the Polycon convention where the entire media corporation, I guess, or media gathering gets together to just play a bunch of games and have a good time. Because Caleb was mentioning in the Discord, he's like, why don't we just like get a place and just like have a weekend where we just all play video games all weekend long and just drink and have a good time? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it right now. That sounds like a good time. I would do that in an instant. So.
It's bound to happen eventually. I mean, everyone can see that the Polymedia Network is slowly taking over the entire internet-osphere. So, as soon as we start publicly trading, get that FANG stock, turn that FANG stock into PFANG for Polymedia Network, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Then we'll be able to definitely start selling tickets. Only $200 a pop, I think.
210 so that I can get myself, just a little extra on the side. But we're here to talk about indie games, and I actually did bring a topic today. It's kind of popped into my head the other day. So this is the concept for it. We'll see how it goes. We don't really have too many notes. Did you take any notes? I'm just doing this off the top of the dome here, but
no, it's just all coming off my head. I've got a couple of ideas that I think would work.
Cool. So basically the idea is, imagine a world like a multiverse scenario. You're in a different multiverse that any indie game studio that you can think of can get their hands on indie AAA license. So what are like the perfect pairing together for that? And what are some cool ideas that you have? I'll go ahead and shoot it off to you first. I have a couple myself, and we'll just kind of talk about this for a little bit.
My first idea that comes to mind is it's definitely relevant for me. So I just watched Leah play through Mirror's Edge. First time I've seen the game in, probably almost a decade at this point. She's playing it through for the Cartridge Club Game of the Month. So Mirror's Edge is such a time and place game when it came out. There was nothing else like it, but also I feel like there really hasn't been anything that has captured the same spirit of it since. So what I would like to see is to distill the Mirror's Edge concept down to its core, which is just like good flow state, smooth, combo-based platforming, essentially. And I was like, okay, well, if that's really like at the heart of what makes that game fun, what if we had a 2D version of that was developed by Roll7, same folks that did Ollie Ollie? Oh, they're already like so used to the flow state you get in skateboarding games. I think they could do a parkour game pretty well, and they'd already have like a lot of the skill set and probably honestly a lot of the tool set and technical know-how to get it done.
Wow, that's a fantastic idea. I love their art style. Have you seen the gameplay trailers for Ollie World? Have you seen the trailers for that? The art style for it?
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, it has more of a... I mean, even the first two are pretty vibrant and pixely, but this I feel like is like taking their vibrant colors to the max. So I could imagine them doing a side-scroller like parkour-y thing with like the bright whites and the reds, of Mirror's Edge. That would be really fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be like, like a halfway point between like an auto runner and a Metroidvania or something like that. I think they could do it well. And I haven't even played through all of Ollie and Ollie Ollie 2 or Ollie Ollie Oxenfree.
Oh, you never played Oxenfree?
I played just a bit of the first one.
You never played Oxenfree?
Actually, I never have. Oh my god, I didn't realize that was a game until I said it.
Yeah, Oxenfree is it was funny because I remember there was one point where I put two and two together as well. It's like an Xbox sale. It was called the Ollie Ollie Oxenfree sale, like game sale, and it was like those two games. I was like, wait, God, how did I not realize that before? So you're not the first one that probably had that realization here.
So, small aside on Oxenfree, and then I'll go back to what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who was over, and she was looking at my shelf of games, and she's like trying to figure out what she wants to play. And she pulls out Oxenfree. I have I think Limited Run ran a physical version of it. I have that for PS4, but I haven't played it. And she pulls it off the shelf, and she kind of like, with a little bit of guilt in her eyes, a little sheepishly, she asks me, "Is it okay if I open this to play it?" And every time someone asks me if they can open one of my games to play it, I feel so guilty that I haven't played that game yet. Like, I don't have any desire to keep it sealed. Like, I am going to play it eventually, and I'm fine with someone else opening the game to play it themselves. But it always feels like a personal failing on my part. Like, I was like, I really should have played that before someone else asked to play it. That's rough.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling, and especially you having your giant collection. I say humble collection, not giant. You know, I'm gonna be nice about it. Your humble collection. Yeah, and it's like, well, I have all these games, and I have this library, and then you see, I bet you have probably maybe a dozen or more that are sealed in your collection, right?
Oh my god! I mean, if we include PS4 stuff, it is a much higher number than that. Unfortunately, okay. There's so many sitting aside that just need to be played.
See, for me, I guess that's a little bit of an OCD thing. Even if I never played the game, it's unsealed because there's something about unsealing a game and just like opening up, even if it doesn't have a manual, and just seeing the inside art and just like getting that plasticky smell. I'm kind of addicted to it. So if I buy like a huge stack of games on sale or something during Black Friday, the part of the fun for me, even if I don't play them, is going home and just unwrapping them all and just getting excited that I bought this huge amount of games for a good price and just enjoying it, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get that. I have some stuff in my collection. I think the oldest games that I still haven't opened yet that I intended to play are PS2 games. I have a small handful of PS2 games that I bought new and still haven't cracked, so
wow,
it's a problem.
I don't know how you have PS2 games that you haven't unwrapped. That's amazing to me. Anyway,
but yeah, back to the developer, back to the indie game discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that Mirror's Edge is the type of game that doesn't need to overstay its welcome. Like, it's got really fun ideas, and it's very like striking visually, and it can put you in a bunch of different situations. But once it's kind of done its thing, you're just like happy to see it done and have a comfortable short experience. And so the Ollie Ollie devs also are good at very like contained, very tight level design. And so I don't know, they just felt like the perfect fit. I was like, gosh, I'd love to see a 2D Mirror's Edge, and they instantly popped in my head as the right team for the job.
Sweet. Well, I'm going to go big for my first one here. So, okay, remember a couple of years ago, the Crypt of the Necrodancer people got they made a Zelda game. What was that called? Cadence of Hyrule, right?
Yeah.
You know, similar to that. So, my idea is Nintendo went out and said, hey, indie developer, here's the Mario license. So, we got Matt Makes Games, the guy that made Celeste, making a new Mario game. And I know that's probably too easy, but think about it this way. It'd be like a brand new Mario art style and even better jumping mechanics. And they don't have to make it super challenging. I don't think Celeste is super challenging, but, you know, it has that platformer aspect to it. I would think they would lean more on the side of like Super Mario World, where it kind of ramps up per level. And then you have like the super secret hard levels at the end. And it would be like a brand new art style. They would kind of revamp the look of Mario, because I think Mario hasn't had a brand new look in so long. Like I can't think of the last time that I've seen like a brand new take on Mario. So I thought that would be pretty interesting.
I think it would be too. I think that's a great idea. The first thing that came to my mind when you mentioned it is, did you ever play Super Mario Run, the mobile game that they put out?
I haven't played it, but I'm aware of it. I've seen gameplay and stuff, but I just haven't played it yet.
Okay. So the sort of like core loop of that game is you play through a level and it's an auto runner. It's an auto runner Mario game, and you just tap the screen to jump. And after you beat a level, you can go back in, and then they'll have placed multiple pink coins in the level. And you do the same auto running level again, but you have to collect the pink coins. So you kind of have to it sort of like structures the path that you need to go through. But they have 2 other levels of that. You do the pink coins, and then there are purple coins, I think it is. And then finally it's black coins. And by the time you're in a level trying to complete a run collecting all the black coins before the end, it's pretty challenging. Like, the jumps are pretty tight. You have a really strict path you have to follow. You have to do some like pretty aggressive like enemy hopping and wall jumping and like narrowly landing on thin ledges and stuff a lot of the times. Like, you can tell that it is designed for experts at that level. And so I think if the devs wanted to put a little bit of that Celeste flavor in there, they could do something like that, borrow some of those same ideas, kind of mapping, like the black coins to like the strawberries or something, and it would actually make a lot more sense.
Yeah, and I was in my head, I'm not imagining a 3D Mario. I'm imagining like a high pixel, like a little bit more detailed than a 16-bit, like, you know what I mean? Like almost a 32-bit, I guess, Mario,
Yeah.
like super detailed pixel art that's like very stunning looking. And then the soundtrack would be just like a bunch of indie artists like revamping Mario music. Wouldn't that be badass? That would be so cool.
Dude, if we could get the cross between like a Celeste soundtrack and a Mario soundtrack, like get some of that like Mario energy, a little bit of that like big band stuff, but with mostly like that ambient kind of like chill wave sort of Celeste soundtrack, like lo-fi hip hop Mario beats to study to. Dude, I'm there.
Yeah, so that was my idea, and I'm just so we're both into that style of gameplay, super precise and fun platforming. So just a bright and positive Mario game made by that type of small team, I think would just be awesome.
Yeah. And, not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Nintendo has, it feels like, been a little less precious with their IPs lately. They let other studios take a crack at it here and there. So who knows?
Yeah. So you got another one for me?
I got one last one. And this one I feel like is less of a stretch. Honestly, I feel like this one is sort of like almost an inevitability. And when I pick AAA games, I'm not very good at picking like big AAA games. I just pick the like basically AA games that I love. Mm-hmm. But I think that Heart Machine, the studio that made Hyper Light Drifter and now is making Solar Ash, would be the perfect studio to take a crack at making a modern Shadow of the Colossus. They're basically already on that trajectory, right? They have the vibe down. Everything in Hyper Light Drifter is basically like has the same energy as the Shadow of the Colossus or moments of Shadow of the Colossus. Solar Ash is them building into this kind of like open world, large scale environment. If we just let them go one step further, give them the actual property and let them do something in Ueda's like environments, I think it could be so good.
Honestly, if you take a look at Solar Ash gameplay, it just kind of like the inspiration for Shadow of the Colossus is there. It's like they're literally just riding a flying giant beast slashing at it. So I mean, they're pretty much there. Just change the title, I guess. I
know, that's why I said it's not too much of a stretch. But I was like, gosh, I was gonna be super stereotypical and ask someone to make a modern Eco, but I was like, no, I think that Heart Machine's a better fit for a different game that they might put out.
Who could make a good Eco though? That's a good question.
That is a good question. When you think of indie games, my brain always wants to translate 3D into 2D games, but the core of Eco being like large, empty environments, slow puzzle solving, a lot of like time for reflection.
Maybe what's the studio that made Tacoma? Maybe them. They could do something like that.
Yeah. Is Tacoma is Fulbright, right?
Fulbright, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because they do, it's kind of like a walking simulator, but they could maybe do a first-person style Eco with their like, narrative, like, like environmental storytelling that Eco has. And I've only played about 3/4 of Eco. I never beat Eco. I'm sorry. I know it's one of your favorites, but I've seen you stream it a bunch, so I know what the ending is. I just haven't played it myself. So,
Are you? Well, you know what? I can't be too mad at you live on the air because Eco's not an indie game. But I hope that you are embarrassed. Are you embarrassed?
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Just chill.
You know what? Thinking about it, you've described something I want, right? Like, let's strip out the eco part of it, but just like maintain that castle environment. Like, where is my first person just wandering around in old, like, crumbling, starting to reintegrate with nature castle? That's what I'd like to see. You know what? I bet the What Remains of Edith Finch people, Giant Sparrow, I bet they could pull off the like sort of like slow, methodical, wandering environmental value of eco for sure.
Yeah, they could. That'd be awesome. Oh man, I need to play Edith Finch again. It's been a while. It's one of those that once the memory of it kind of slowly fades, you kind of want to re-experience those stories. It's a really sad game. You got to mentally prepare yourself, but that's such an awesome game. We should do like a whole like huge breakdown of that game sometime.
Yeah, I'd like to replay it too. That sounds like a future episode to me. But what do you got? You got a last one for me?
Yeah, so there's a classic PlayStation Studio IP. So this would be kind of a revival too, but imagine Shuhei Yoshida, indie overlord over there at PlayStation's like, here, Indie Studio, I got the Ape Escape license for you. And I was just like, because I love Ape Escape. Ape Escape 2, pretty good. Ape Escape 3 is good too, but I feel like it kind of fell off a little bit, but I still enjoy all three of the games. And I just kind of missed the series. So I'm trying to think of like a studio that would be good if you give them a little bit more budget to expand upon what they already do. And I think that give Gears for Breakfast, the people that made Hat in Time, just a little bit more money and a little more time and said, here's the Ape Escape license and just go have fun with it. I think they would do a really cool game because they have a really nice and quirky sense of humor that really kind of lines up with Ape Escape. And I think that it would just be a really fun time.
I bet everybody at that studio loves Ape Escape. Like,
yeah,
you play that game and it's like in the back of your mind, you're just like, damn, these people love Ape Escape for sure.
And then the people that are making Clive and Wrenched 2 would be pretty good because their like favorite thing is, what's that Muppet game you played last year?
Muppet Monster Adventure. Yeah, they were like pushing for that game on Twitter recently. I was like, yeah, way to go.
They would be huge Ape Escape fans. Just a studio like that's making fun 3D platformers, and then give it that Ape Escape thing where you're kind of trying to capture the apes in like a puzzle scenario. And I, for one, like the control scheme with the dual analog stick. I know some people don't, but I think it's a lot of fun. So something like that, just a really bright and cheery Ape Escape game with a studio that just has a lot of heart to it.
Dude, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm literally starving for any Ape Escape content. I'm surprised we haven't seen a remake. So, dude, good call. I'm right there with you. I'll sign that petition.
Well, this is a good segue, which I didn't purposely do, and I'm going to do my game first, if that's okay with you, because it actually kind of fits the mold a little bit, because it's a game that is inspired by, very heavily, two gigantic AAA games. So do you want to jump into the quest log?
Yeah, let's jump into the main segment.
Sweet. So the game I brought today is called Splitgate. Have you heard of this game at all? Besides me probably talking about it.
I've heard you talking about it, and I think I heard a little bit of discussion on another podcast too. Is this the first-person shooter kind of like Portal game? That's the extent of what I know. So tell me how wrong that is.
No, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, so the studio is, and I just kind of copied and pasted this blurb from their website because I thought it kind of boiled it down to what it is. And it's a studio called 1047 Games, and it was founded by a guy named Ian Prox. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And Nicholas Bagaminian, I don't know how to say that either, in their dorm rooms in Stanford. And the company was named after the address of their dorms, which is pretty cool. And it started as two computer science majors putting portals into an FPS for a project demo. And now it has a 25-person game studio. And their flagship game is Splitgate. And it's trying to bring back the glory days of PvP shooters. I'm kind of condensing this down because it's a little longer than I expected. But basically, Splitgate is Halo meets Portal. And that's what IGN called it. And it's referencing its Halo 2/Halo 3 style gameplay. The game is free to play on all modern platforms: PS4, PS5, Xbone, Series S, and PC. So, and it's free, but you can also opt into like a cosmetic optional battle pass like most games do nowadays. But pretty much, you're right. It's Halo, the idea of Halo. It does play a little bit differently than Halo. We can get into that. But on your wrist, you have the option to shoot a orange portal and a blue portal and go through them like you can in the Portal games. And it kind of makes for some really fun first-person shooter scenarios.
So can you put portals anywhere in the environment, or is it not that open? Because if it's anywhere in the environment, I'd be surprised. They must really have to design and build their levels to prevent people from, getting out of the levels or on top of buildings, stuff like that.
So I played the alpha when it first came out. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years when they first put the alpha out on PC. And I feel like at that time they had more freedom with the portals, but now I feel like they've play tested it to the point where you can very visually see the specific panels and walls and ceilings where you can put the portals. It's kind of like a grid pattern on the areas. And I feel like they are made to specifically be used for tactical advantages, and it's not really for, hey, let's try this weird portal thing. But occasionally you do get those scenarios where you throw a portal in one spot on very far apart of your spawn, and then you put the portal in their spawn, and you're kind of going back and forth like trolling them, which is pretty fun. So it kind of introduces this whole new layer to like a Halo style multiplayer.
So I'm assuming you're able to do anything through the portals. It's not just movement, right? Like you can shoot through portals. Can you throw grenades through portals? Can enemies shoot through your portals?
Okay, so that's a good question, because through your portals, your specific portals, you can see through them. Like you can see what's on the other side. So if you see a dude and you have a sniper rifle, you can sniper the dude through the portal, or you can throw the grenade launcher through the portal, whatever you have. But your teammates, you can still go through their portals, but you can't see through them. And then the same thing for the enemies. You can go through their portals, but you can't see through them. So it's like kind of one of those things where you see like, and they do a pretty cool thing where they have a blue and red team, but you're always the blue team, and the red team is always the enemy, no matter what, even no matter what side you're on. So I'm the blue team fighting the red team, and then the red team on the other side is fighting the red team. You know what I mean? Because yeah, you see the enemy as red all the time. But you see a red portal sitting there, you're like, maybe this is a good idea to walk through there, maybe not. Maybe the entire team's there waiting for me. You never know. So you can just jump through there, and then you're like, if you're lucky, you can get like a 5 kill streak or whatever, because everybody's right there because everybody went through that portal. It's kind of like a roll of the dice because you're not sure what's on the other side. Or you can just say, oh, I have a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher, just shoot a rocket through there and see if you kill anybody. Why not? Just to see what happens. But it really just opens up the playfield to just some of the most fun scenarios I've had in a multiplayer is like environment in a long time. And it really does play like Halo, and think more like a modern Halo where you can sprint, and the time to kill is a little more fast than like I would say Halo 5 is. I'm not sure about Infinite, obviously, but like you can kill somebody in 3 to 4 shots instead of like 5 to 6 like Halo is. So it's like you can down somebody pretty quickly and they can down you pretty quickly, but it's like super fast and frenetic. And I think that it's going to be like my go-to multiplayer game like going forward, because I'm just kind of a little addicted to it, and it's pretty easy just to jump in and just play. And they have like a ton of game modes. They have oddball, where you like carry the ball. Whoever carries the ball the most wins. It's kind of like skulls from Halo, where you carry the skull around, and like you can kill people with the oddball. You smash people in the head. Oh, actually, there's a fun scenario I had with that. I had the oddball, and I had a portal on one side near their area and one side on here. So when you have the ball, there's like a little ping that goes on, in the environment where the person has the ball. And I was kind of going back and forth through this portal. So like the ping icon was kind of like on one side of the map, then the other side, then the other side. So they kind of kept filtering towards me, and I was just like smashing dudes in the head, just like douche, 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 like over and over. And I got like a 15 kill streak just because of that. And it was so freaking fun.
I mean, it sounds awesome. I'm a little confused. Which one of these is more correct? Is the speed of gameplay, like the running, the floatiness of the jumps and stuff, is it more Halo, which is like slower, more methodical, or is it fast, like I don't know, like a Quake or an Unreal Championship or something like that?
I would say that they do have a little bit of that quick like feel to it of an Unreal, kind of mashed with the Halo because of the way like Halo, when you kill people in the multiplayer, you either get 2 headshots, or if you're a sniper, like two headshots with a sniper, or whatever, or you get like 4 or 5 body shots and then a headshot, or you get like 3 or 4 blasts. You have to be tactical and shoot a few times. So they have that, where you have to shoot them like more than just like Call of Duty, where you're just like melting people instantly. So it's like, so it has that where it's a little bit longer time to kill, but how fast you run through the map, I do get reminded of Unreal, because you are just booking it like from one side to the other on the map. So, and then they also have the awesome announcers, which is kind of just like that classic shooter feel. Halo still has it, but of course they had it in Unreal and all those back in the day too, where it's just like double kill, all that stuff. I love that stuff. So it just makes it's just a really fun playground to just get in there and just blast some people away. And to me, I think I might like this game because I'm pretty good at it. I mean, that adds to it, right? So like if you get into multiplayer and you just get this decimated for like hours, it's not fun. Here I'm actually doing positive KDs, and I'm helping my team and doing good at this game. So, and I do love the variety in the game modes. It's just really a blast.
I mean, it sounds awesome, and it sounds like a lot for a free-to-play game. What's the other side of the coin is always, what's the monetization like? Is it just cosmetic stuff or battle pass, or how are they planning to monetize it?
So the monetization is pretty simple. It's like you said, it's a battle pass. You can still level up the battle pass. So like a lot of games nowadays will have a battle pass where it's like you're still leveling up, but then you got to pay for the battle pass to unlock stuff still. You unlock just like part of the stuff. If you can unlock the entire tree if you pay the $15 or whatever it is. And I find kind of the cosmetics so far a little distracting, because they actually have some characters that are kind of have red features to them. So you'd be playing with a teammate, and like he has like red shoulder pads and stuff, and you're like, all the characters in the game kind of have that, almost like it feels like somebody went to a Chinese market and found like a knockoff Halo doll. That's what it kind of feels like, you know what I mean? Kind of not Stir Chief, you know what I mean, or something. So like it's like Spartan, Narton, Naughton, or you know what I mean. But knockoff Halo characters, that's what they look like. But yeah, there's like a character you can buy that has like giant red shoulder pads. So there was a teammate that had that, and I was like running, and I see red, I gotta shoot and kill it, and I'm shooting him and nothing's happening because it's my teammate. So I think the cosmetics are okay, like they look okay. I don't think this game is like a looker, really. I think the art style and like it's very it looks kind of basic in a lot of aspects, but I do think it serves its purpose. I think the gameplay itself just makes up for anything that it's lacking in visual department, and they can always improve that and add to it as time goes on, because it's kind of like one of those games that's kind of ever growing and building, But yeah, to me the monetization is kind of something I don't know if I'm going to personally do anything with. I think it's fine just to jump in and play for free.
Very cool. And what are you playing it on? Are you playing it on PC? You said that it's basically on every platform, but are you doing it on PC?
So I played a little bit of every game mode on PC, and then I hooked up my PS5, and then I played a little bit of every game mode on there. And unfortunately, right now, there's not cross progression, so it's like I'm leveling up 2 characters, so I'm going to probably have to pick a zone or a lane. But to me, it actually plays good on controller and PC. PC might be a little bit more fun because you can literally click people's heads really quickly, and that's kind of fun, but for just lounging on the couch, it's a great game too. So I can see myself playing more on the PlayStation, to be honest.
Cool. Well, if you do, maybe I'll hop on and we'll play some.
Yeah, we should. It's gonna be good times, man. It's one of those where I'm like trying to spread the good word of Splitgate, because I think it's one of the better multiplayer games that's come out recently. I feel like it's of the quality when it comes to the gameplay of like a Apex Legends or something, because I do think Apex is like a really stellar gameplay first type of game, and I think that's what this is going for too.
It's dangerous. I put 100 hours into Apex, so don't be trying to trick me into putting another 100 hours into another shooter. Well, I don't play a lot of shooters these days, but when I do, it tends to be one that really gets its hooks in. So we'll see. I might be tempted. But I mean, any other thoughts in wrap up on Splitgate that you want to mention? Any other things?
Yeah, we usually talk about music. There's not a lot to talk about here. When you're in the gameplay, there's some kind of ambient sounds that you hear in the environment. There's like very low notes of music and stuff. But for the most part, you just hear really loud plodding sounding foots going on and the guns shooting off and stuff when you're playing. When you get in the menu, It has a really nice, like, triumphant fanfare theme. That's pretty much the only music you really hear. But like I said, it has the great sound effects. It has the awesome announcer. It adds to the ambience of just kicking some ass. And there's actually a really fun game mode I want to talk about, and I think it's funny because it's kind of like so tongue-in-cheek that it's just perfect to me. It's called Teabag Confirmed. So,
oh my God.
Pretty much what you do is when you kill somebody, you have to actually run up to the corpse and teabag it for the kill to count. It's amazing. I have so much fun with that game mode. It leads to some of the stupidest looking scenarios too. Like, it's like, okay, I killed that guy over there. I'm gonna go run over and teabag him, and then the bad guy's like watching you go over to about to teabag your teabag in mid teabag, shooting another guy just so you get that kill. Yeah, it's such a good time. Yeah. But you can tell I'm just really into this game. I think it's just an absolute joy to sit down and just dive into.
Yeah, I'm loving hearing about it, and your enthusiasm is infectious. I don't know, free to play. It's not. I have so many games I want to play right now, but I mean, what's the harm in maybe just installing it and leaving it on my desktop until I get into the mood, right?
Yeah, and the matches last like less than 10 minutes. So I mean, the barrier of entry is like non-existent here. So,
all right. Enough peddling of this game to me. As we always do, we get around to that ever so pressing question. Where's this puppy gonna fall on the quest log? But before we even do that, we should probably explain to people what the quest log is. Why don't you give them a rundown?
The quest log is that thing. It's this giant list of just games that we love and we adore. We're slowly building it out for you guys. If you go to the Questlog website, what is it, bit.ly/questlog, take a look at the list. Every single one of those games on those lists are bangers. Like, you're going to have a good time at the very least, and at the very end of the day, you might have the best time of your life. It might become your favorite video game. But we have two sections to the Questlog. We have the main quest, which is a game that just takes your breath away. It's like jumping through that portal for the first time in Splitgate. It gives you that good, happy, warm feeling inside. And then you got the side quest game. That's kind of just like waiting in the server queue. You're like, I'm ready to play. I'm good. Everything's about to happen. And this is a terrible analogy, but it goes with it comes with the territory. But the side quest game is still a great game that we do recommend, but we might have a couple caveats here and there. So I guess I need to put this on the quest log, right? This is a main quest game, obviously. I'm kind of gushing about it because I had so much fun with it, and I thought it was nice to bring a multiplayer game for once, because I don't think we don't really talk about it too often, and this game just kind of like just hit me, man. Like, it was a perfect timing. I had my PC set up, and I'm like, what game should I try? And I was like, this is free. I don't have to pay for it. Let's just jump in and try it out. Sat down, played it for like 6 hours straight almost, and just had a blast with it, and did the same thing on the PlayStation. So for me, Splitgate, I'd say if you're in the mood for like a Halo, like fast, like to tide you over for Halo Infinite, if that's right around the corner. If you need something to fill that void, check out the game. It's great. Splitgate. Check it out.
Awesome. Great recommendation. And yeah, I do really appreciate you bringing a multiplayer game. I really don't think we've brought many at all. We've brought Among Us,
Yeah.
and when we've talked about genital jousting,
Oh yeah,
and
that was like
uh,
an afterthought almost. I'm like, yeah, genital jesting is kind of a joke, but I mean, the game was pretty fun. I still had a good time with the weird storyline on that, but yeah.
I'm glad you're here to. I think every multiplayer game we've discussed, you've brought to the show, so I'm glad to have you here, representing the genre for everybody.
Well, I think you brought a game that's kind of the opposite of a multiplayer game. So, what do you want to talk about today? What are you bringing for me? What are you recommending? What you got?
Yeah, so I'm bringing 12 Minutes, a
Ooh.
game that, as of the time of recording, just was recently released. It's developed by Luis Antonio, who I think this is their first game,
Hmm.
but I know that they previously did some work or assisted with development on The Witness, but I don't know that there's any other full works to their name. And then, of course, published by Annapurna Interactive, so it's no mystery to anybody why this game was on my radar. But I think a lot of people have been seeing this game for a long time. It's been in E3s, it's been in showcases, it's just been around. Like, this game took a long time to release, and so I feel like there was a little bit of a build up to it. There was a little bit of like a pressure that needed to get released when it finally came out.
Yeah, it has what James McAvoy
Ray
from Star Wars. What's her name?
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley.
And,
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. Yeah,
Yep.
you got the Green Goblin in there too. So it's got to be good.
Yeah, they credit him as Willem Dafoe, not as Green Goblin for some
Aw.
reason. But I think we all know what's going on there. Yeah, you got to wonder if that's Annapurna swinging their weight, right? I mean, Annapurna
Mhm.
was originally and primarily is a movie studio, and the Annapurna Interactive is their games division, their games arm, and so I'm sure that they call in a couple of favors to get some of these big names in there sometimes. But this is maybe the worst game I could bring to the show because one, you really can't say that much about it without spoiling it, and two, I especially can't say that much about it because I know for a fact that you want to play it and haven't played it yet. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do what we can to be as general as possible and as brief and succinct as possible. But
Okay.
for for anyone that is unaware of what this game is, 12 minutes, it's a time loop like puzzle adventure game. So it's called 12 minutes because your main character is caught in this 12-minute loop over and over and over again. After 12 minutes passes, they are teleported back to the start of that 12-minute period. And really, the way that it works out is that you start the game, you're just returning to your apartment complex, you open the door to your apartment, and that is the start of the loop. So when the loop resets, you start right back at opening the door to your apartment. And so the entire game takes place in these 12-minute chunks, or I should say up to 12-minute chunks. I'll get into that in a sec. And all within your apartment. So it's literally like 3 rooms is the entirety of the game. And it's very reminiscent of, you can probably see some elements of The Witness in here, but it actually wouldn't be that far of a stretch to compare it to something like Outer Wilds, because most of what you're doing in this game is you're trying things in a loop. You're pushing at different ideas, or you're like trying different tracks or different conversational paths or whatever, and then learning information. You're learning how people respond, or you're learning how things interact, and then using that information to further your goals in the next loop. So that it's a little more mechanical than something like Outer Wilds because it's not exclusively just what is in your head. There are times where you kind of hit like, for lack of a better word, shortcuts, where you'll go down a certain path to like achieve some state of the world. Get a character in a certain position or reach a certain point of a conversation. And if you do that, the game kind of understands that it would be monotonous to force you to like do all the setup to get back to that point again. And so they kind of like give you conversational options or ways to fast track to sort of like jump right into that world state so that you can kind of keep playing around from that new set of conditions. But the reason I say it's up to 12 minutes is because this game's got a real tone to it, and you either reset the loop after 12 minutes or if you die. And there's a lot of ways that your character can come into harm, and basically just kind of like meet an early end. The main reason, and sort of like the setup for the loop, so this isn't really too much of a spoiler. This has been plastered all over the trailers and stuff. But the sort of like central initial conflict is that you and your wife are sitting having a day in your apartment, and then a cop shows up, knocks on the door, gets impatient, busts in, and basically arrests your wife, makes some accusations, and puts you down, and then eventually either chokes you or hits you or knocks you out or something, and roughs you up to the point where the loop resets. And so what you're trying to do is figure out why this is happening, what you're being accused of, and obviously there's mysteries that pile on top of mysteries on top of mysteries and things like that. But it's interesting.
Well, I want to say that this game is kind of controversial, I guess. Maybe some people love it and some people just absolutely hate it. Is there some reason why for that? Is it tedious to go through this loop multiple times? Is that why the people complain about it, or is it just people just being whiny?
There's a couple reasons for that. One, this will absolutely be a divisive game. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, I mentioned that sort of like shortcutting system. So let me try to make up an example. Like, let's say this isn't something that ever happens in the game, but let's say you'd like go through a bunch of effort to like find scissors and cut a piece of paper into the shape of a star, and then through like painstaking conversation back and forth with your wife, convince her that that star is a real starfish that exists in the world. Like, that is an actual starfish. It's not a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And you had to do a lot of convincing. You had to go through the process of actually clicking around. It's like a point and click adventure game. So you're literally clicking over to the scissors, putting them in your inventory, going find the paper, combining the scissors and the paper. And then you have to, ultimately get her to believe that it is a starfish for whatever reason. The game knows that, okay, if that's something that is going to be important, we'll kind of let you like fast track it. Like, I don't know, it'll let you like talk to her and be like, hey, did you know that starfish are in the apartment? And she will just be like, yeah, I believe that, rather than you having to go through all that setup. Mm-hmm. But some of those like chains of events are very long, and it's not always super clear if it's going anywhere or if it's a dead end that you're like trying something that doesn't matter. So you can definitely get into a rhythm of like deciding on setting up the state of the world in a certain way, spending like 3 to 4 minutes of just like mechanical clicking, using items, moving stuff around, talking, just to get back to where you were to like try something else. And then on top of that, this game is very timing dependent. Like, things can change very, very significantly based on when you do them. Even like in the middle of a conversation, things can matter. Like, if you are talking to you get home right away at the very beginning of the loop, your wife greets you and says like, oh, hey, welcome back. If in the middle of her saying that, you try to interrupt her and say, like, give dialogue, she'll be like, huh, rude. And then now she's like a little bit upset with you, and her being a little bit upset with you may or may not be relevant. So you have a lot of potential things to try, and it can be a little bit finicky to try them out. For me personally, that part didn't bother me too much because I guess I just went in expecting that, partially because of the type of game it is and partially because I had sort of like loosely heard the discourse, and so I had steeled my mind for it. But a little bit of monotony like that doesn't bother me in games too much. Like, I don't mind to go back to the Outer Wilds example, I don't mind the flight back to the planet that you were on. I think that is just like sort of part of the general loop of the game.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's not going to bother me too much. My main question, I would say, is how does it control? You played it on console, I'm assuming. Do you play it on Xbox or do you play it on your PC?
I played it on Xbox, and I should have mentioned at the top, but this, as of the time of us recording, this is available on Windows and then the Xbox family of consoles, so Xbox One and Series X and S.
How did it play with a controller? Because I know it's literally, you probably have like a cursor, right? Like a Destiny style, like you're going around. How did that work out with a controller? Did you like it? Because I feel like that this game might be one I might just sit down here at the desk and play on PC instead, if it's one of those things where the controller would be in the way of that. Or did you just kind of get used to it?
I got used to it, but I think you'd be better off playing it on something with a mouse.
Okay.
So you're right. It does. It has like a virtual cursor that you move around, and it's kind of like, I'm sure you can adjust the speed of it, but it's not always super easy to click on exactly what you're clicking on, and sometimes the game isn't perfect about knowing what you clicked on. So like a really bad example that was very relevant a few times is you can click on the lock to a door to lock the door. And so I'd be like standing in a room and wanting to lock the door in a very time sensitive way. And I'd hover my cursor over it and it would say like lock, currently locked. And I'd click A and it would open the door because the cursor was like slightly off in the game's understanding of where it was. And so it would open the door rather than lock the door, which completely threw off the loop. So there are definitely some frustrations there that I think you'd mostly alleviate by playing with a mouse. I'd probably recommend PC.
But yeah, I'm still not trying to be negative about it. The game obviously is on my radar. It's something I do want to play this year, just to say, hey, I played that game and it looks very cool. How does the narrative like play out? I mean, trying to be as non-spoilery as possible. Like, how is the setup, and do you feel like it pays off well near the end? You don't have to say what happens; just say how you feel about the game as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely won't spoil what's happening. People will have a lot to say about the sort of direction the story takes, and I get it. Overall, I thought it worked. So one thing that really impressed me about this game is that there's a lot of consideration to all the different things you would try. Like, they really thought out all the different paths that you could try to take the story, and they accounted for a lot of them. So there's almost never a situation where I would try something and just nothing would happen. I'd always be given some feedback to let me know either, yeah, this is a dead end, or this is something you should keep pursuing. But in terms of the actual narrative, it is very... I will say that it is unlike most other games that I've played. And at a certain point, as I was playing through, I would say I was at like, maybe like the 70% point where I had sort of learned some of the big pieces of information that there are to learn in the game. And at that point, if I'm being perfectly honest, I was like, no, this is not working for me. Like, I feel like they didn't establish what they needed to make this storyline function or pay off. It felt like it was a little bit unconsidered, but there was more that I needed to play to understand some additional context that I didn't have yet. And so part of that is that, different branches of decisions you can make can yield different bits of story. And some of that was I wasn't fully done yet with the game. And so by the time I reached the end, I thought, okay, for this story that they're trying to tell, right or wrong, I think they largely do fine. There are some holes, but it is, at the very least, it is interesting. It is different from anything that you've played before. And again, I know people will... it's a hard recommendation, because I think this is the type of game where they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. I feel like maybe they should have like content warninged some of the things in the game, but also they would have a hard time doing that without giving away some of the decisions that the story take. So it's
kind of like having a rotten apple in one hand. It's like, I don't want to spoil it. I know what you're saying. It's like one of those things where it's like they maybe should have done that, but it's like content warning, and then whatever it is, and then you're like, well, now I know that's going to happen. It's kind of just like defeats the purpose of the surprise of the story. So it's kind of hard as a developer, I wouldn't know where to go there, and it sounds like they don't have the content warnings in it, which
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, yeah, and honestly, thinking about this game, what popped into my head was the Fahrenheit/Indigo Prophecy demo that I played as a kid, and I just imagined David Cage walking out. It's just like, "Hello, I am David Cage, and this is a story that will play out how your decisions matter." I just, for some reason, that just sticks in my head. But that's neither here nor there. But honestly, this game does look, sound. We can talk about the music in a second, and it just seems like something I definitely need to experience because it's unique. Yeah. And that's pretty much what you're selling me on here, is at least trying it out, getting through the game just to see what their ultimate goal was with the story and everything. But yeah, let's rewind back to what I was saying a second ago. How's the music? Where does it have some good tracks, at least, as you're playing through the game?
It does. I mean, a lot of the music feels a little bit film scorey, which maybe makes sense, but there's also just some like there's a couple good like chill background tracks, a couple good like more energetic electronic tracks for tense scenes, and they do license a couple of songs, nothing that I recognized, but especially some older music. Like there's a pretty nice like path you can go down where you like put on some nice music on the radio and you're dancing with your wife and stuff like that. So it isn't anything I'd listen to after the fact, but it definitely serves the game very well. And this feels like a game that is hard to recommend, and I need to give a lot of caveats to, but I will say the actual puzzles and the actual like adventure gameplay of it, I thought was pretty good. It is not abstract in the way that a lot of adventure games are. Everything you're doing is like really logical and very like a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times it felt like the decision that I would make that just like kind of seems like the thing someone would do to try to achieve some certain outcome is like the actual solution that you need to do. And like presenting certain items at certain times to certain people to convince them of things, to like sort of like reinforce something that you're trying to convince someone of. All those types of puzzles I think were pretty good. There's a couple that are gamey. Like there's a couple where it's like, okay, I understand that they had to have like the video game check here, but it's fun. It's fun to play. It's if you want like a like I don't know, like an Outer Wilds meets a Crimson Room for my Flash game heads. It's like it's kind of in that vein.
Nice. Though the game that came to mind just because I played it in the last couple of years was a game I played for a different podcast, but it's called Seventh Guest. Have you ever heard that game? Ever?
Yeah.
Have you played? Yeah, and there's some puzzles like that in Seventh Guest where you're kind of like, what do I do here? It's you got to kind of beat your head against the wall a little bit to get through them. But I do enjoy that game. I thought it came out pretty. Like when I played through it, it's dated, but it was a fun game. But we're not talking about that game here. But you know what I mean. But yeah. I like adventure games occasionally. It's not my favorite genre, but there are some moments like in Grim Fandango and other like games like that and LucasArts games, where you're like, you gotta combine this thing with this thing and this thing, and you're just literally checking boxes to see if anything matches together, to see if anybody would react to anything. And is there any of that in this? Is there a lot of that in this? Or is it just more self-explanatory where you have the 12 minutes and you just kind of have to keep doing the task and trying new things out? It sounds like it has that element to it, but it's not as obtuse, maybe, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not obtuse. There's no Resident Evil style, like having to get the heart-shaped ruby and putting it into the secret heart-shaped ruby slot that you discover or anything like that. It is much more like straightforward or logical to the context of the world, right? Like, you might be like taking food out of the fridge at a certain time to try to affect whether or not someone like spends more time at the fridge, things like that, where you're like, okay, I need to delay this person by 15, 20 seconds. How can I do that? Okay, if I I know they're going to walk to this place. If I put something there or take something away or whatever it might be, I can help speed things along. If I set the table, then I know that they'll sit down right away because the table's already set rather than setting it themselves, that type of thing. So more logical to the context of the world, and I think fun and a lot of interesting things to try. I was never hurting for a new idea to put forward in the next loop. I was always like, okay, I've got these like 3. I want to keep going down that path, but I think now that I know that, I could also try going down and doing this other thing, and it might give me some other context. And it was always interesting.
I think that my new favorite genre is like a clockwork puzzle game, because we got Outer Wilds, we got this, and then we got Deathloop coming up. I feel like it's just kind of like in the back of people's minds. So I'm really looking forward to it. So any final notes or thoughts or anything for 12 minutes before we put it on the quest log today?
I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. Again, I will just kind of reiterate to people that it is definitely like a your mileage may vary type of game. It's hard to give a recommendation outside of the mechanics of it, one way or the other. I guess if you've been hearing this and the mechanics sound interesting to you, give it a shot. It's unfortunate that there are some things that in the game I would like to warn people about that you sort of can't without giving the crux of it away.
Okay. So a possible content warning, there are some content in there that might bother some people. That's what you're saying, but you don't want to say what it is because it could spoil the plot. Okay, makes sense. So it sounds like there's some caveats to the game. I think I know which way you're leaning, but where are you going to put it on a quest log here?
Oh yeah, I think pretty easy side quest game for me here, just because I had fun with the mechanics of it. I like the story well enough, but there's too many like little bits of frustration, little like warnings that I would give to other people. I wouldn't wholeheartedly recommend this to everyone universally in the same way that I would push some of the other main quest stuff. So again, maybe a little more of a critical overview than we usually do here. Not trying to say that it's a bad game at all, but just kind of like setting the right foundation for everyone's experience. But there's a lot of people that love this game, myself included. It has a real chance of being one of my top 10 games of this year. So in spite of it all, it's something that I did quite enjoy. So it comfortably sits on the side quest. And if it sounds at all intriguing to you, I definitely encourage you to check it out, because there's nothing else like it for sure. It's very unique.
And like you said, like we always say when we're on the show, when we put something on a side quest, that could still be a main quest for some people, but it sounds like to you that it might still be a main quest for you for this year, you know what I mean, personally. But for like the general audience that we're making the list for, it's more of a side quest game because, like you said, it's a mileage may vary game. So to me, I'm very excited to check it out. So, and I'm really happy that you brought it, because it's kind of getting me jazzed to at least check it out, and going in knowing that it can be a little more methodical, where you got to do things a few more times here and there, doesn't really bother me, and especially in a game that has a cool story. So I'm looking forward to checking it out and giving it a shot in the next week or two. So sweet.
I'd really love for you to check it out. It's the type of game where you, especially when you hit a couple of specific story beats, you want to go talk to someone and be like, bruh, we got to talk about this game right now. And I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet because I don't know many others that have played it. So please play it, put it on your upcoming backlog so that you and I can chat about it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, even if it's off the podcast or just in Discord or text or whatever, I'll definitely let you know what's going on with that. Sounds good. So I'm glad that we're back for sure this time. I know last episode, which is going to probably be up probably only like a week before this one, but it's recorded like what we recorded maybe a month ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But we're back. It feels good to be back in the normal rhythm of it, right? To just be like, let's bust out a couple of indie games. Let's drop some segments. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, it's probably going to be normal schedule every other week, and we're just going to have some awesome indie game talk, and we're going to be consistent and go through the entire year. And Halloween's coming up, so we're going to have a Halloween episode, and it's going to be good times. I'm just really excited to be back at it.
Yeah, me too. It feels good, and I know we both have plenty on our indie backlogs, even just stuff that came out this year. Like, what a stacked year. So tons of games for us to talk about, tons of stuff for us to talk about. And yeah, hope everybody keeps enjoying the show.
Exactly. And I got a big long week. I got a 3-day weekend coming up, and I'm so stoked to do absolutely nothing but play video games. So I'll definitely be knocking out some indie games this weekend, and I'm just so stoked for it. Heck yeah. Anyway, let's do our normal rigmarole outro. So thanks for hanging out with the guy. I guess I need to edit that part. That's the first probably big edit point, me stumbling there. Thanks for hanging out with us this show, and always supporting the show. We always get listeners and great feedback, so that's awesome. If you want to stay up to date on the show, you can follow us at Indiequest Pod on Twitter. Personally, you can follow me on Twitter at Frantic Society. I do another show called Frantic Thoughts, and I do a movie show called Box Office Bliss with my buddy Rusty. Steve, where can they find you on the internet? What are you up to? Let them know.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter as Blinkoom. That's Blink OOM, like out of mana. And also by the same name, Blinkoom, on Twitch. I'm on there streaming every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, starting at about 7 Central. And we mix in some indie stuff there. It's not exclusively indie. We get some retro and even some modern in there, but plenty of good indie games, gems that show up there that sometimes make it to the show here, sometimes don't, but we always have a good time. So on top of that, I'm a member of the Polykill podcast. Is it fair? Is it cocky to say that it's the flagship show? It's probably Drunk Friend is probably the flagship show.
I think you could say it's the originator of the network.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. The progenitor? Is that how you use that word, progenitor?
I think so, yeah. Probably.
If it's right, he'll leave it in. And if it's wrong, he'll edit it out.
No, I'll just leave it in either way, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, the Polykill podcast, a podcast on the Polymedia Network, all about beating games with me and Trav, where we have fun, talk about what we beat, and we talk about what the community beats. So please come check out that podcast and the other shows on the network. If you had to pick one right now, what's a show you'd want to mention on that Polymedia Network?
Well, you already mentioned it. I would say Drunk Friend. I really enjoy SNES Drunk and NES Friend, Trav and Alex, sitting there just having that good back and forth, and then they bring in guests of just a huge variety of people, be it somebody from the gaming community, be it a runner, be it whoever they can get on to talk about their lives and just have a really cool conversation with. And I think that's just a really cool interview/comedy show, and I think you guys should check it out. What about you? Have any of that just pop out to you?
Yeah, I'd be remiss not to give a shout out to Tales of the Lesser Medium, a very funny show based around, I guess, ostensibly based around the stories of video games, but really about just riffing and having fun and doing a little bit of character work around different stories for video games. They just released a Contra episode, so go check out Tales of the Lesser Medium, and of course, PD's Power Hour, your combo of alcohol and often games or other nerdy activities as well. She has a lot of good guests on there too. So it would be fair to say I like the entire network. So please feel free to check out any of the shows. If you like us here, you'll probably like a lot of the other stuff we do.
Yeah, it's a thing. Or I'm a fan of the network, and I am honored to be a part of it too, which is a good time. I love it.
Same.
Yeah, a bunch of friends just getting together, just having good conversations, and just vibing out. I love it. And the Discord's cool too. If you haven't checked out the Discord, go to our Patreon. You can do all the good bits there and get in the Discord. Get in there and talk to Burger Champ about whatever he's talking about today. It's a good time. So
it really is.
I wanted to make a comment. I don't know if this is going to be at the very end or if it's going to be after, but your voice is deeper in real life than on podcast. Did you know that?
No, is that true? I always thought that I sounded that checks out. Now that I think about it, I think I sound like a weaselly nerd when my voice is recorded. Like I'm pinching my nose and I'm wearing a bow tie and I'm like, "Hey guys, it's me."
It's
me,
not.
Blink.
It doesn't come out that way, but like in person, you walked up to me in the hotel and you're like, "Hey Josh," I'm like, Wait, that's not your voice. It's a little deeper than I expected, but okay, what's up?
All right, that's fair.
There's
fair.
something about the way the voice goes through a recording software makes it just like a slight tinge of a pitch higher, you know. And I just didn't expect the deepness of your voice. It's more sultry in person. So if you ever get a chance to meet Steve, you need to just listen to that sweet voice, you know.
I'm glad it can entertain. You know what? If you want to write in with your opinions on my voice, you can do so via email at indiequestpod@gmail.com. Or you can just tweet at me and be like, no, you do sound like a nerd. You were right the first time.
No, that was a very, very, very good transition. I'll give you props for that. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with us for this episode of Indiequest. Steve, why don't you do what you always do? Sign us off. Say goodbye to the good folks out there.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us during the hiatus. We're excited to be back. We're excited to be talking indie games. And if nothing else, I hope that you can have some delicious tacos soon. Or hot pot.
Ooh, hot pot.
When it came out, it was so unique and so different. And then now...
I was choking on my water. Wow. Good job.
You broke my mind because I was like, he looks like he's laughing, but I didn't make a joke.
I started choking, so I muted myself.
I was like, is my cat in the background like eating something or that he's laughing at? But yeah, so Mirror's Edge is such a time and